Alright, so imagine yourself back in somewhere between the good old late 2000s to early 2010s range, and you just got your hands on a 1600 Microsoft Point card. But since you're burnt out on the big AAA releases, buying a DLC isn't really on your mind, so instead you decide to take a trip over to the Xbox Live Indie Store to see what games you can get for only 80 points a pop. Or at least a vast majority were only 80, since I do remember some being 160 to 210 and even 400. But regardless, you are in for a full-blown grab bag marketplace of just about anything ranging from experimental games to minimalistic games to clear ripoffs to, well, to be quite frank, pornographic games that took advantage of many horny teenagers. And just like you in the scenario, that was me at one point, and my experience with this marketplace, as I would end up buying 20 games from it. So yeah, join me as I do this walk down memory lane to see if what I bought was good or if I was scammed up the wazoo. Oh, and I should probably say the other two reasons why I'm doing this outside of the lost art of trying to scam people out of their money with crappy games. The second reason is to see what diamonds in the rough there actually were, and the third reason is a sort of piece of remembrance / engravement, since to play these games you need to be online, and the 360 servers won't stay up forever. And yeah, I've been wanting to make a video like this for a while, and that third reason is mainly why, so I'm doing it now before I run out of time. Alright, to start off with, these games will be put into multiple categories based on what they are and their quality. And we will be starting with what I believe is the best of the best. And what better game to start off with than the poster boy for this marketplace, The Impossible Game. A game where you play as an orange square that needs to jump to avoid spikes and pitfalls, all to the beat of the awesome music playing in the background. But of course, what people most remember about this game is its difficulty. And man, does the game live up to its name, since you die in one hit, and every time you get killed, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. And you would keep playing over and over again, each time making a little bit more progress, until finally making it at probably 5,000 plus attempts. But then it turning out that you don't get a medal for completing it on practice mode. But yeah, despite being very simplistic and only having one level, this is still a great and addicting game to come back to. And I could see why every time I went onto the marketplace, this game was always at the top rated or top sold. But when it came to those two accolades, the next game on our list was not very far behind, it being the Impossible Game Level Pack, which is, as the name implies, more levels for the Impossible Game. Levels that have all new tricks up their sleeve, ranging from going upside down to doing tightrope jumps to completely covering the screen in darkness. And each level is once again supplied with an awesome soundtrack that you must jump to the beat to. But yeah, that's basically what this is. More of the same, but better. I mean, heck, now there are actually medals for completing the levels in practice mode. If that's not an improvement, I don't know what is. Alright, now with the two big name titles out of the way, let's continue this category on with something more obscure. Headshot 2. A game in which you are tasked with sniping out a deadly terrorist hiding amongst a group of civilians. And you must make your shot count, because if you just miss or hit a civilian just once, it's game over. And there is also the awesome added tension of needing to take out your target within 30 seconds or less. And let me tell you, it really does feel satisfying to take out one of them after waiting for the perfect moment, especially when it plays the little cutscene of the bullet going all the way to their head. But yeah, this was always one of my favorite Xbox indie games, and all these years later, I could still see why. Oh, and I should probably just throw this out there. Yes, I played Headshot 1, but that game sucked. Alright, next up in this category is Super Amazing Wagon Adventure. And this game is obviously a parody of the Oregon Trail, as this game will see you basically redoing the trail, but this time, well, all hopped up on drugs. I mean, you will still do the normal stuff like hunting and trading, but the farther you get into the game, the more crazy the objectives get, like needing to defend yourself against bandits or giant ants or even ninjas. And you will fight back with weapons such as a pistol, a bow and arrow, a submachine gun, a flamethrower, a plasma pistol, and even a B-52 bomber. On top of that, there's also different types of wagons and survival modes that you can unlock. And yeah, I do like this game for its comedy, for its bizarreness, and just for being fun in general, but I will give one mark against it, that it is way too hard. You will end up dying way too quickly and needing to restart the whole journey over again quite often. Alright, moving on, we have a simple game here, which is Classic Solitaire, which for all intensive purposes is just Solitaire on your Xbox 360. While there are a few extra features like being able to change the background or play Klondike by threes, which apparently is hard mode, leaderboards, and whatever else. And that's really all there is to say with this game, other than me wanting to almost call it a rip-off, just simply because all computers come with Solitaire for free, while here you had to actually pay for it. But I mean, if you really wanted to or had no computer, wanted to play Solitaire on your 360, $1 isn't half bad for that. Alright, moving on. Up next we have a 2D action shoot-'em-up platformer where you play as stick figures, which is aptly named Stick 'em Up. A game that I immediately knew was going to go into the good section, but after replaying it, it's actually a whole lot better than I remember. It's really cool. You run around shooting enemies, you have 3 different weapons to choose from, there's vehicles that you can ride in, there's customizable things you can unlock. The campaign levels are really fun to do, and there's even bosses within them. And even though the campaign is pretty short, admittedly, there is still more bang for your buck with the fact that you could play multiplayer in this, which I feel like would be really fun to do. So yeah, overall a pretty solid title for how cheap it was. Alright, with the best of the best done, let's move on to the games that aren't really, well, games. And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, here's the perfect example to start off with, Newton's Newtones, which is like this weirdly neat music maker thing, I guess, using Newton balls. You could like play around with them, drop them down, have as many as you want on one set, change the sound effects that they have, their color, and whatever else, and then proceed to watch what you have created in like a concert vision, I like to call it, or just give up and listen to one of the pre-made songs. So yeah, overall a pretty cool music making thing that I feel like if you were to work at it enough, that you would actually get something really good sounding out of it. Alright, moving on to another neat thing, which is M2AF, or Message to All Friends, which is something that you could use to message your friends, which sounds really convenient, right? Be able to message all your friends at once instead of individually? Well, unfortunately, it's kind of a scam. This game takes advantage of the fact that people didn't know that you could add multiple recipients to a message using the basic Xbox menus. Regardless, though, I guess this is still convenient, as well as well put together. There's music playing in the background, and I'll give it that you can make specific groups, which is kind of neat. But I mean, I'm kind of hard-pressed with this one. I mean, it does kind of take advantage of your lack of knowledge with the menus and how messages work. The simple principle of paying for something that you could do otherwise for free. Alright, moving on to another thing that I think is a ripoff, Games Master Xbox Game Guides. The name just rolls right off the tongue. Now, why do I say this is a ripoff? Well, the first reason is that this is not the creators of this like original pet project or something to make a bunch of walkthroughs I could use. It's literally just stuff ripped from GameFAQs. Legally, I should say. He at least got the permission by everyone who's in this to put it in here. But regardless, this turns into yet another situation of paying for something that is otherwise free. I mean, you could literally just go onto your computer, go to GameFAQs, and the same stuff would be right there, all for free. Plus, you had the added bonus of being able to print it if you really needed it to. Other minor issues include there being no music, so it's just there's nothing to listen to while you're doing this, and the fact that certain games don't even have proper walkthroughs, just FAQs or whatever else. But the biggest screw up for me personally is just how inconvenient this would have been to use. Like, let's say you wanted to have a walkthrough for Dead Rising, and you wanted to, like, do it as close to the guide as you possibly could. Now, since the 360 wasn't able to keep games open while going back to other apps, or in this case, another game, it wouldn't be possible to follow the walkthrough, like, at one time, all at one time. And because of that, you would have to do one of four things. Either 1, take a whole bunch of pictures of it, 2, write it all down, 3, somehow memorize the whole thing, or 4, be constantly switching back in between the game and this. None of that is convenient at all, especially compared to just having your computer right there and being able to just go over to it and, well, read it. Now, I will give the benefit of the doubt to whoever created this and say that they just wanted to get guides out to people on Xbox. But, I mean, due to all the reasons I just listed, this is unfortunately a big bust. Alright, with that done, we now move on to the final game that isn't really a game, which is also a neat segue into the Avatar games. With Avatar Massage Online. Yep, this was a thing that was sold and apparently that I bought. Although, looking at the cover for this game, it's not hard to see why. But anyway, what is the actual game here? Well, it's exactly what you see. It's just a massage simulator, with you choosing how intense the massage is and your remote reacting to it by rumbling. And the massage can be coming from either a massage chair, or a supermodel, or your mama, or a zombie even. And I guess somebody else's avatar if you were to actually play this online, but there was no way in hell no anyone is gonna even be online, so I didn't even try it. So yeah, that's really all there is to this game, so why would anyone buy it? Well, I mean, vibrations plus a sexy looking girl, you could put the pieces together. And before I jump off this game, I want to say that there's a funny little thing of the music being from C418. Like, I think this was made before Minecraft became popular, so that's kind of funny. Alright, the next game we have here is Avatar Rockets. And basically what this game is the equivalent of one of those Flash games where, like, you flick something and try to see how far you can get it. Except this time it's starring your avatar trying to get as high up as possible with a rocket. I mean, you just fly up, try to get the fuel, and try and see how high you can get. Game's just fine. You could even color in a ship that you could use. I don't know, the best thing about this game was the fake names that are on the leaderboards. Shout out to Rick Astley. So mature. Alright, with that done, next up we have Avatar Paintball. A game I really only played like a few times, but I'm kind of regretting it because after playing it, it actually seems like it would have been really fun to play more often, since obviously the servers are going to be super dead now. The only thing being available is the practice mode where you can only shoot out cardboard cutouts. No bots in this. But yeah, this one's kind of sad because this genuinely looked like it would have been really fun to play. There was weapons to unlock, power-ups galore. The map wasn't half bad. I mean, yeah, definitely something that probably was worth more than it actually was. Alright, now on to the final Avatar game, Fortress Craft Chapter 1. A game that really only exists today as a reminder that at one point Minecraft wasn't available on consoles, which obviously led to a huge capitalization on this, with so many rip-offs of it flooding the indie market, and the two big names that came out on top were this and Castle Miner Z. Now, Castle Miner Z, I remember people saying that it was even better than Minecraft. It was basically Minecraft but with a zombie edge. You trying to survive against, like, zombie hordes while crafting, shelter and stuff, I guess. Basically a more intense survival mode. Now, to my knowledge, no one in our friend group, or at least just me, never bought, Castle Miner Z. It was only this game that we played, which is just funny because out of the two of them, that's probably the one that's more fondly remembered. or just remember it at all. But enough about that. We're gonna actually talk about the game itself. And well, if Castle Miner Z was survival mode, this game was creative mode. You didn't have to survive, you could destroy any block without even trying. You had access to unlimited blocks, all the blocks, whatever else. And maybe if this was your only option and you really did like the creative mode of Minecraft, I would say this game would probably be great for you, or at least good. But unfortunately, that is not my personal preference when playing Minecraft. And if I don't like it there, I'm definitely not gonna like it in a second-rate version of it. Makes me kinda honestly wish that I got Castle Miner Z instead of this game. But regardless, once Minecraft finally came out on consoles, we all collectively basically ditched this game. Although having said that, if I remember correctly, when Minecraft first came to consoles, it didn't come with creative mode. So that meant if you wanted, like, creative mode before it came to the official thing, you would still have a reason to come back to this game. But I'd imagine that once creative mode finally came along, that this game instantly flatlined. I doubt that there's a chapter 2 of this anywhere floating around. And that just about wraps up all the Avatar games. We are now going to move on to the final set of games that I bought, which, for a lack of a better term, I'm just gonna call them, well, porn games, because that's honestly what they really were. Starting off with Trailer Park King, a game that follows a character named King who lives out his life in the titular trailer park. And of course, this trailer park is mostly populated by hot, scantily clad babes who all want a piece of him. But there is trouble in paradise, as after a fight with the resident douchebag of the park, he ends up being killed in your house, or I guess trailer. And of course, because of that, you are now the #1 suspect in this murder case. And that's basically what the game is. It's a whodunit murder mystery that you have to go to every character in the game and get their alibi to clear them. Eventually get to the point out who the actual killer is. You know, real point and click style stuff. You go to a character, they need something done, you go to another character to get it done, then go back to them. And honestly, all things considered, this isn't actually half bad of a game, considering it's obviously just a game with hot women in it just to make you buy it, but I mean, the content here isn't half bad. Although this is still a funny game to think about people buying for the sexual aspect, since you can call for an escort or just straight up watch porn.
Would you like to watch some porn? I can't do that right now.
But yeah, neat little surprising game. It even ends with a cliffhanger, which is after you apprehend the real killer, you end up getting pushed into the jailhouse yourself. And luckily, we are able to continue this story because the next game is Trailer Park King Episode 2, which honestly is just more of the same, but honestly a bit shorter, it felt. Just more innuendos, maybe a few new characters, and even there was a neat little mini game that you could even play. This time the story revolves around Truck, the guy who everyone thought died in the last game, not actually having been dead, turning out. But then he ends up dying again somehow. But it turns out at his funeral that he's not actually dead, so now he's running amok in the town and you gotta find him. And when you do find him, you end up going into super redneck mode and have a redneck combat, which is just tic-tac-toe. But something I forgot to mention is that when he comes back after the funeral, everyone thinks that he's a zombie, so after finding him, the objective basically turns into you trying to prove that he's not a zombie, since he cut off the one thing you can't live without of, your porn supply.
Would you like to watch some porn?
Your cable has been permanently disconnected. No porn for you, dumbass.
And he won't give it back unless you help him out. Or at least that's what it seemed like. After you get him out or whatever, the mob comes after him and takes him away. But unfortunately, once you save him from the mob, the game is over. To be continued yet again. And since I don't have episode 3, this is just where the story ends for me. Will the king clear Truck's name and prove he's not a zombie after all? The only way to find out is to watch somebody else's playthrough of this game series. In the meantime, I'm gonna move on to the next game, Who Did I Date Last Night? A game where you unfortunately suffer from transient global amnesia after having the greatest date of your life. And now because of that, you don't know who you went out on a date with, and whoever that was wants to meet up again. You must now use the few things that you do remember as clues to figure out who it exactly was. And that's basically what the game is, Guess Who with hot chicks. You'll get clues like they like to wear bikinis, or they look serious, or they're outdoors. Then you gotta whittle down all the pictures till you have at least 3 guesses. And if you guess right, you win. If you guess wrong, well, try again. Of course, that's the actual game part of it, but in reality, this is just probably an excuse to look at hot girls. Real life hot girls, surprisingly, they actually got them to give them pictures. Or they just got them off the internet, I don't know. Not much else to say with this one, so we're gonna move on to the next game in our list, which is Beach Bubbles. And I kind of feel like a broken record here, but this is yet another game type that you would see in like maybe a Flash game or something. You know, one of those games where you have like all these items all across set levels and then you have to get rid of every single one to get to the next level. Except the reward this time for completing the levels is unveiling a small piece of the picture of the hot cartoon girls that are in this game. And once you complete all 6 levels and unveil the whole picture, you then can go to the gallery and, well, look at it for as long as you want. And once you unveil all 8 girls, you then get a bonus 9th one, something I definitely did not have the patience to do. I don't know, this one was just really boring and frustrating. The character is just way too big for the enemies and they keep hitting me. And the enemies themselves sometimes get through the bubbles, so then you end up dying even though they're not supposed to do that. So we're just going to move along to the next game on the list, which is a game that is written in Japanese lettering. So since I have no clue what this game is actually called, I'm just going to go ahead and call it Token Anime Game. And basically what this game is the box game where you like hit one box and then like 5 others turn over and you have to get them all turned over in order to win. I don't know what it's honestly don't know what it's called. And stop me if you heard this before, but once you do it, you get a picture of a hot anime chick. And in revealing clothes, no less. Who would have guessed it? And one thing I'll give this game to the last game is, if I'm remembering correctly, there are 3 difficulties, easy, medium, and hard, and every difficulty you go up, they lose, like, more clothes. I say remember because, again, no patience to get through all of this. But, yeah, this game really just boils down to whether or not you like this type of box brain teaser or not. Which, I mean, yeah, it can be fun, but it just gets way too frustrating when you just can't get one over, and then you have to restart the whole thing, and then it just spirals so far out of control. Alright, up next, we're getting to the end here. The second to last game, Avalis Dungeon. A game that I'm kind of actually happy to have replayed, since it's actually like a game, like an old-fashioned dungeon crawler, and all the sex stuff, although still being here, definitely doesn't seem like it's the main focus, just more added on like as a bonus. Alright, so what is the game? It is about a warrior princess named Athena as she goes around to dungeons killing, well, demons. And you explore these dungeons and fight the creatures inside, as well as collect items, survive traps, save hostages, maybe even meet up with another adventurer. And it's all up to you how everything goes, like how you go through the dungeon, which way you go, and how you handle each encounter. Like when you first meet someone, are you gonna immediately attack them or just talk to them? If you go up against a monster, are you gonna fight them regularly or use a fire spell or a ice spell? But I will say, despite all these positives, the game is just way too simplistic. If you make one wrong move, like use the wrong attack against the wrong enemy, you instantly lose, and you basically have to start all the way back at the beginning. There's only like a checkpoint halfway through, and that leads me to the other issue of this just being way too short of a game. I'd expected the map that shows like 5 different dungeons to be the game, but no, this is just chapter 1 apparently. So that means you only get the one dungeon, then you're done. And well, since I didn't buy any of the other games, I did not experience anything else with this. So with that, I guess we're moving on to the final game. And what better game to end on than the one that I deemed the most embarrassing, Adventures of Captain Becky. And really all this is just a bare bones basic 2D action platformer. I mean, it doesn't even have a story. You control Becky as she runs through the levels and you destroy stuff with the mace that she apparently has, as well as use it to kill the enemies and destroy objects. And within those objects you find money to increase your score, or hidden objects like more costumes that she could wear. I don't know, this game is just, well, bad controlling wise, and everything else is just so bare bones that it's not really worth talking about, really. Like, the controls are as stiff as I remember them. Every time you attack, you just stand still and you can't move. And the same as with, I think, you don't really get that much, like, speed when jumping, so... And the levels are so cramped that you can't really even jump that much to begin with. So then if the gameplay isn't really that much to talk about, why is this the game that I said is the most embarrassing? Well, that is for one simple reason. There is a character creation section, and one of the options for it is for how big her bust can be. Yep, this is the epitome of every single one of these games put into one slider. Nothing else to talk about with this game other than the part where she dances for you, which is just... Come on, why is that here? So you can get a closer look up at her gross body. I mean, look at her fingers. Why are they so long? Alright, that wraps up all the games that you would try to play one-handed, as well as just all the games in general. Well, now that we are at the end, it is finally time to answer the question of what the overall quality of my Xbox Live Indie Games purchases was. And if we take a look at the handy-dandy charts that I just made, we have 11 good games, 3 average and okay games, 3 bad games, 2 ugly ones, and 1 that is both bad and ugly. So yeah, just by sheer number superiority, it looks like that I did not get completely scammed. I mean, it definitely happened, but not 100%. And I guess with that question answered, that's the end of the video. Or at least it would have been if I didn't think of more reasons why I made it. Since, much like Nintendo's Dark Age, this was a video that I started and never really finished until now. But at least this one only dates back to February of this year. I guess the biggest reason is just closure. I mean, these are games that I never really planned on ever coming back to, like, just in general, and the memories of them would have just been memories, especially when, like I said in the beginning, Xbox 360's servers go down and you can't play them anymore. So to go through most of these games at least one last time to give myself a concrete image of what they were, it felt like the best thing to do. And to see where I was when I was a teen. You know, the lack of buyer sensibility, the lack of Minecraft, the lack of relationships. Another reason is kind of a cheap shot, but I'm doing it anyway. These 20 games, this was basically one big off-the-cuff review marathon, back to back to back. So I'm gonna count all these games as officially reviewed by me. I guess another reason is renewed respect for some of these games. I mean, for the longest time, every time I would go through my games and apps or whatever and see these games, I would just look at most of them with disgust. Mainly the porn games, obviously. But then I replayed them for this, and I have a new respect for them. Mainly the Trailer Park games and Atlas's Dungeon. Now before I say my last reason, I should say that this was all the games that I had downloaded, or at least re-downloaded. I don't know if there's any like lingering games that I might have missed, or demos or whatever. I'm not gonna do one on demos. So this is the only indie game video I'm ever probably gonna do. And I guess the last reason is just the simple fact that these games, I had to basically remind myself, these games were made not by big companies. They're called indie for a reason. They're made like by small teams of like groups of people, and maybe sometimes even just one person. They were all just trying to make games for people to enjoy, whether they be good, bad, experimental, exploitative, not even be a game or otherwise. And that's the last thing I gotta say about all this. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.